I started the company in 2008, and we were just 2 people. And by 2022, there were 150 of us. The thing is that if you want to do more and more development, until recent years, you just needed to have more and more people. And I'm half a manager. On the other side, I love to do a tech job. And if you have 150 people, you're not coding anymore. You're not doing any development. You basically work as a troubleshooter, because people are coming and say, there is a trouble with such and such team. There is a trouble with such and such manager. So when I quit the company, and when I started, I worked here as a head of R&D, like a fractional head of R&D for some time. But then I'm still a businessman, so I started this startup that we are doing. It's the observability startup focused on developers, but these events are not about any kind of marketing. So if you want to know more, you can ask me later. But the thing is that what I wanted to do this time is I didn't want 150 people again. I want to have a small team because we can be very well connected, we can have fun together, and also me as being a tech person, I'll be able to do more and more tech things. So the AI coding started, and I saw that it's a good leverage to try to have more productivity for a single person, instead of getting more and more like 5s and 20s and 25 and so on. So we are trying to do this AI first thing in our company. I try to help my friends. We have a small Slack group where we share the knowledge. And one of the biggest problems that I think exists now is that I see in many companies, let's say we have a group of 10 people. So as I see, there are, let's say, 30% of people who are doing daily AI coding. And there are some problems with the other teams, with the other people. So what we'll talk about? First of all, what's different about what's happening in 2026? We all know that ChatGPT started by the end of 2022, I believe, but something more different now. So AI coding becomes reliable, and is it reliable? People do have concerns about moving to AI-first coding. There are things that where AI can help. There are things where AI can't help, and we need to find out what works, what doesn't, how we can help other people, how we can share the knowledge. So I'll try to talk about it. So first of all, the thing is about like what's different now. 1 second. Okay, the battery is dead. So a lot of people now think that software developers use AI tools like 100% of them. Okay, 90% of them. But the actual fact is that I'm sorry, yes. So Stack Overflow did a questionnaire at the end of 2025. And they asked people, like Stack Overflow users, on how frequently do they use AI tools. So if you look at the charts, daily usage is only by 47 people. They say it's a great news that half of the people using AI daily. But if you look into the next thing, like 17% of people say that they use AI tools weekly. 13% used AI tools once in a month. And people not planning to do it anymore, and soon, or don't plan to do it in a short amount of time. So what's the reason? The main reason, I believe, is that a lot of people they tried to do some AI coding back in the end of 2022. They tried to do AI coding back in 2023, but it's all different now. So first thing that I want to do is to get a small brief of what's changed and why changed. So a lot of people know that the whole transformers thing started with a single paper. Attention is all you need. So OpenAI, based on this paper, started to develop OpenAI GPT, which was first an API, and they were trying to figure out what business they can do. And they figured out by 2021. So they fine-tuned the model based on the source code that GitHub had, and they provided the API to Microsoft, to GitHub, to do a GitHub Copilot. And that's how it all started. So June 2025, the creator of Vercel says that GitHub code is a thing that has never been seen before. This was this was a magic, like it auto-completes the code. No one saw this before, it was like a revolution. But then, November 2022, ChatGPT is announced, and one of the things they say ChatGPT can help with is to do AI coding or some bug fixing. And they do the example, and the example of magic by that time was that in chat, the user provided a snapshot, like 10 lines of JavaScript code, and the ChatGPT was reporting that there is a mistake in the code, and that was already, again, a magic, but there was too much hype. So a lot of people were tired of this hype. They were trying to do coding, and it was like hallucinations. There is a creator of Redis. I'll talk about him a bit later. So he says by the end of 2023 that the level of failure of LLMs is so much, so he doesn't want to do any kind of coding. He says that there should be some advanced reasoning to do the coding because LLMs hallucinate. So by June 2024, Claude 3.5 Sonnet came, and the thing was that it was a reasoning model. So basically, I think we all know, but I'll just try to cover it a bit. Instead of like in pre-reasoning era, the whole process was that the prompt was sent to LLM, and LLM were trying to answer right away. And because LLM were trying to provide the answer right to the user, any kind of hallucinations were happening. We know that like for LLM, it's just a 2 chars after 2 chars after 2 chars, it's like a random generator, right? So because of this straightforward output, again, a lot of bugs were appearing. And when the reasoning model came, basically reasoning models are a way to resolve the amount of hallucinations the LLM provides. No one doesn't think that there is a chance that there will be models without the hallucinations. But there are ways to resolve them, reduce them, by using agentic loops. So basically what's happening is that user enters the prompt, LLM and loop is trying to first understand what user is asking, then the agent can call specific tools, and then based on tool usage, the agent might provide the response. And that's how AI coding is different now. I'll talk about this a bit later too. So basically, when there was some clicker that shifted all my slides, so sorry, I'm jumping between them because half of slides were moved from one to another position 5 minutes before the talk started. So I'll try to align. 1 month after Claude 3.5 Sonnet started, Cursor implemented it, and that's the moment when we, like everyone heard about Cursor. But again, at first it was just small coding changes in files. And again, a lot of people were trying to use it just out of interest. They got the bad experience, and they never went back to the trust to LLM coding. So by 2025, the way reasoning plus agentic coding is implemented is that, again, it's not the model itself. The thing now is that the models reached pretty good level of code implementation. I'll talk about benchmarks a bit later. But again, the whole process is about trying to cover the risk of hallucinations. So it's loop that is checking the, doing code review and stuff. So let's get back to the theme of the talk. What are concerns that people have? So as I say, every second developer uses AI code daily. Every other second developer uses it weekly top, some 1 month. So let's say you work on a team with other people and you want to share the knowledge. Let's say you're like a team lead and you want and you need to spread the AI coding. So we have three, from what I see from other companies, from what I see from my company, we have three main concerns that people have. And I'll come to this a bit later again. And the third one is kind of like a main problem. So lack of trust. Again, that was I covered before a bit. So the thing is that LLM coding exists for 3 years already. And a lot of people tried it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 1.5 years ago. They got the bad experience. They hear all the hype about AI going to replace people, and they just don't want to do it. Other thing is security concerns, and the other thing is more about why we are doing software development in the first place. So the thing is that people ask, or people say, it's not reliable, based on the experience they had in 2024. And even what people had in 2024 is different. So if you look over software benchmarks, then we can see that GPT-4o, which was like very good model for doing the AI coding that a lot of people were using, on a SWE bench was showing 21% task resolution. By now, Claude 4.5 Opus and Gemini 3 and GPT 5.2 reach 74% of task completion. I think that there will be always gap of 20% of, there won't be 100% in a short period of time. It's always like 20% of hallucinations for a model, but we close to what LLMs can do. And if someone tried and someone said that I was trying LLMs 2 years ago, 1 year ago, the chance is big that this guy tried to use GPT-4o or some other model, or GPT 4.5, which is not good level as well. And the amount of improvement is not like a 10%, right? It's 21% to 74%. So if someone says that LLM are doing bad things, you can ask on what model, when this person tried to do this thing. And if it was some time before, you can say that, okay, you need to try it again, because in current world, any AI solutions, LLM solutions are changing every 3 months. So 1 year is like a previous age of the era. Same thing for live code bench. There are multiple benchmarks, but again, if you'll see, it was 35%, then it was 55%, then it was 70%. And now, even for DeepSeek, it's 80%. So it's growing and growing and growing, and people need to reassess the previous experience. I showed before the post from creator of Redis, who was saying that level of failure of LLMs is incredible. 1 week ago, he posted an article in his blog, and in the article he said that he's doing 100% AI coding in Claude Code. He was saying that in 1 week he did 4 open source projects and so on and so forth. But generally, it's kind of an example of reassessment. Imagine Redis is a pretty low level software application. So it's hard it was definitely hard for previous generations of LLM to code in like Redis code. He said that it's not reliable before, but now it's like, I think it was January 5th. He says that it's clear for me, for the most projects, writing the code yourself is no longer sensible. Another guy was Adam Watson, Tailwind author, and that's kind of like how I try to convince people who tried LLMs before and didn't, they don't believe that it worked. I try to provide things like this. So I try to find people who were very concerned, had very bad experience before, but now they say, okay, now it works. So Adam Watson, in a YouTube video that was published recently, also was saying that he was super skeptical before that. And the thing that he tried to do, what he was saying on the video, that his friends told him that he needs to try again. And he forced himself to download Cursor because he was super skeptical. And now he says, no, I thought it's going to be faster to do the code myself, and now he says no. It helps me to do more code, it helps me to deliver stuff, and now it's completely different. So as I said, LLMs are still hallucinating and will be, but there are multiple solutions exist. And you can tell this to other people if they have concerns. So for Claude Code Skills, there is a great wrapper like plugin called Superpowers. Basically, recently, Claude Code released so-called skills. So basically, skills are prepared prompts that you can pass to Claude Code to do some specific things. And what they have is they have like multiple screens on this. The prompts for brainstorming, the prompts for security, the prompts for executing the plans that you can write together with LLM, receiving code review, and so on and so forth. And if you look into prompts, it's kind of like a structure, an MD file that is provided to Claude Code, and this size of the prompt is kind of like this. Every prompt, and there are hundreds of them, provides such amount, and what's stated there, obviously you can see it, but you can check the GitHub later. But what you can see there, what you can see there is that basically it's a guardrails for LLM on how LLM should check after itself if the code that was done was not buggy, was not hallucinated, nothing was missed, and so on and so forth. So how it works for Claude, for Superpowers, instead of again just providing the request to LLM, what's happening is that you first do planning with those prompts. Then the system generates a design. Then the system develops tests at first. So instead of developing the code right away, it does TDD development, TDD first development, and tests are easy for LLM. But then LLM develops the task, and run tests that were pretty simply implemented. And then if tests fail, it goes back to development. If tests working, then it goes to code review according to specification. If it doesn't match again, it's going back. Then it's going to do a code review according to best practices and bugs. If it fails, it goes back to development, testing, code review again and again. So obviously there are what might be an argument, what might be a good argument for a person again who pretty truly says that LLM can generate a crappy code. It can. I'm doing the development in such a way, and I think in 60–70% of times, after running tests, it goes back, then it goes back, then it goes back. But the end result now, after the whole this flow, is insanely different with how it was done before. And then there are some crazy cases. So many of you probably know Beautiful Soap HTML parser. Recently, so there is a just HTML tool. What they did, there are 9,200 tests implemented for testing how browsers render HTML. So Chromium uses it, Chrome uses it, WebKit uses it, Firefox uses it, everyone. And basically what they did is they feeded all the tests, all the 9,200 tests for LLM to start developing code and checking the HTML parser based on these tests. So what they did now is that after the whole development process, which lasted for something like 1 week autonomously, they reached the 100% coverage. Chromium has 99%, WebKit has 98%, Firefox has 97%. Beautiful Soap has 4% of coverage for these tests. And again, this thing, how it's happening, is happening because of this whole agentic loop and rechecking of hallucinations. So what I try to do, and this is what I'm like trying to explain here, what I'm trying to do with every person that is concerned about using LLM and they want to kind of like on board, to try more. And trying now is hard because everything changes within 1 month. So I try to show by examples that, yes, you're right, there are hallucinations, but no, it's a different world right now where they can be mitigated. Now there are security concerns, and it's kind of like a 2 different areas. First is LLM training on the code and doing security compliance. There are some solutions for this. Mainly, they are for enterprise plans on OpenAI and Anthropic. So OpenAI has enterprise plan where they guarantee that they do not train their code base based on code by people. They provide additional security features. They allow to be a GDPR compliant to do a GDPR compliant mode where you can select a data center to store and so on and so forth. So if you work with employer who doesn't want to use OpenAI on Anthropic because of compliance concerns, you can say that there are a couple of options to resolve this. So first is OpenAI Enterprise Plan. Then Anthropic has the same and even better. So Anthropic has the enterprise as well, but there are Anthropic resellers, AWS Bedrock, Google Vertex, where you can get additional compliance things right away. And if you have...
But again, if you are working at banks or insurance,
yes.
it's not the legal department.
Yes, yes. I'm going to tell about this in the next slide. But the thing is that core team in Google are using Claude Code instead of Gemini. They use Gemini for code review. But if your employer have concerns, obviously if it's government, it's a different thing. If it's bank, it's a different thing. But in some small companies, people say, okay, even if Anthropic says they won't train, we don't believe that they won't do it. But what actually happens, it's like I can't find links to say that Google uses Claude Code. But Google uses Claude Code for sure, because I was talking with different people in AI team, in software development teams, and they do this. And it's not an argument for like a proof link, but that's a crazy thing that can help you to convince employer to extend the usage. And obviously there are banks and there are governments, and local models, they achieved a huge, amazing results on benchmarks as well. So it's like 70% test benchmark coverage, 69. There are a new model called GLM, which is good. There are Quen coding, which was very, very good already a year ago, and multiple more models. And the thing is that apart from having CLI tools like Cursor, Claude Code, Gemini, there is a sub-tools for Claude Code. It's called Claude Code Router, and you can route Claude Code to local models that are hosted in your infrastructure. The other thing is that Gemini CLI is an open source tool, so people take Gemini CLI and they change the model used there. So they host Quen, they host GLM, and they use these tools as a part of ongoing development. 3 years ago, local LM was not doing any good job, apart from autocompletion. Now the results are pretty much alike what you had in OpenAI a year ago. So using Anthropic or OpenAI right now provides a huge better, different experience than using local models that there are right now. But local models already reached at such a point that if your company have enough money to purchase GPUs or to get them from AWS or wherever, it's gonna be like a very good experience now. So other concern is, so basically again, if your company has questions, let's say security team, compliance team, has the questions on how that they say you can't use it, or they say they have concerns. One option is for enterprise plan at OpenAI and Anthropic, it's expensive. Other options, there are a couple of, apart from AWS and Google, there are a couple of more resellers of Anthropic that provide this compliance additionally at a cheaper cost than enterprise plan. And if it doesn't work because of strict compliance, local models are working pretty good right now. So local model, you host it and you host it inside and you can use it. So basically for security teams, it's much, much better. But there is a question of security concern of code implementation. It's a pretty tricky question because with having more and more AI code, it's hard for people to do more and more code reviews. So it's always considered by security people that developer could make a mistake, could make a security mistake. So they need to review, they use additional tools, but the code is getting more and more sophisticated and there are just more and more code. So what we can say there is that there are multiple security reviewers now provided by providers. They know that this is a very, very important question right now. It's not resolved very well by that time. What they are trying to do, what I mean by resolving, is that they want to say that the quality of security reviewer going to be a much better than the coverage of what security engineer using the current code review tools can find when working with the software developer. But that's a challenge for 2026. Obviously, code review is still needed, but it's still needed for people as well. AI reviews work great in one very specific case. So if a developer will do a query and will say, do a security code review, there won't be any specifics. So LLM can do something randomly. But if you can get a security engineer, provide him some like Claude Code or Cursor or whatever, and try to leverage his experience with LLM tools. So they will say what to check, what specific cases to check, how to mitigate them, whatever. It's gonna help a lot. So multiple companies are trying to move security engineers for code reviewing with Claude Code. And one additional argument for security people is people can make mistakes too. And LLMs are doing better right now in terms of review loops. Now, that's a real problem, because a lot of people started to doing software development because they liked to do two things. If you love to build to get results, then again, this was Antares who was saying that the thing is that, okay, you don't do a code anymore, but you can build more and more things. Just HTML as like a beautiful soap replacer was done within 1 week, not by some company, but some people who were doing this as a side project on evenings. What I did a couple of days before, there is a Ghosty terminal who was working pretty bad with Cloud Code at that time. It was doing memory leaks. And there is a Kitty terminal, but it has very poor UX experience for macOS. You can get, what I did, I got Cloud Code. I told, I want you to implement UX in a way it's implemented in Ghosty, in Zig, and do these implementations in Kitty, in C and plus Python. It took something like 3 hours, and I got this implementation in Kitty already. So it's a different era of open source right now. You can get the open source tool, you can come and you can tailor it for what you need. You can do a lot of stuff again, like I did a Todoist clone. Again, I'm super control freak, so it's not like a wipe coding thing. A Todoist clone now is something like 1 day, Sunday, and more and more things you can build, even not only on work. And if you love to build things, and what you can say to other people, if you love to build things, you'll miss coding itself. But you'll get more and more amazing experience from having something done. But what to do if you love to write code? A lot of people, I think it's something around 30%, they love to write code itself. They don't care about the results. They do because they work, but they love the art of creation of the code base. So for them, the problem is really big by now. People are trying to shift such people to mission-critical projects where still it's not possible to use LLMs as like AI-first development. They try to, let's say, billing system, right, or something mission-critical in terms of civil aviation or wherever. So people are trying to move such guys to such projects. But there is no answer. There are some very bad examples of what large companies are doing, from what I know. So they try to, I'll tell about it a bit later, actually. So how we can share it from a management perspective? How we can share, how we can try to resolve these concerns in terms of management perspective, and how we can try to share the knowledge. The first very big mistake that people are doing, especially the companies are doing, the top management are doing, they say, okay, we'll buy 100 cursor licenses and we'll do it for everyone, and we'll say you need now only to work with cursor. There is a huge, I think it's 10 pages research paper on results of mandatory implementations of new tools in enterprise organizations. So in 50% of cases, the whole project failed. If you say you need to use it, people just say, it's like a human psychology. If someone forces you to do something without providing any kind of explanation, without trying to mitigate your concerns, a lot of people have a notion about that. They say, oh, no, I don't want. In very bad cases, what I've heard, and this is kind of like a good thing to know, I've heard about a pretty large enterprise software development company, product development. They, for a group of 100 developers, they bought Cursor for everyone. 30 people were already using Cursor. 40% started using Cursor at least somehow, but Other 30% of people didn't start because there was not a single like a knowledge sharing process. They would just force it. You have the software, do it yourself, try to figure out how to do. So 30% of people obviously being forced and not having enough knowledge about what they can do, just stayed in their previous ideas. So 3 months after, there was like a performance review, and the 30 people were fired in a single day, in a single hour, and the company then hired 30 people who were working with the AI, and they were thinking that, okay, it's a great idea, so we'll get a 100% of coverage of AI first people. Bad thing for them, if you fire 30 people out of 100, other 70 people started worrying that you might do the same for them. So luckily, if some company will try to do the same thing and you know about it, you just can say that if you'll try to, I don't think, a lot of people say that AI will replace humans. I don't think that this will happen. What I think can happen is that like humans can replace humans. But luckily, it's going to be a very, very bad thing in terms of team management. And talking about the mandatory implementation, I don't think I have a link here, but I can share. So this is a whole 10 pages research page overview on what to do if you need to do mandatory onboarding. They do across they try to research different papers, they try to understand how we can mitigate these 50% mandatory implementations. But generally, what I want to say is that for the majority of cases, you can do something different. For instance, what we are doing, what my friends are doing, so the thing is that you can't force everyone. You can't say everyone use. What works good is that obviously there is always some small group of people who already does the development. So we can start with them doing the development, and their goal is to establish the whole process. Their goal is to document how they do the development, and then we can join more and more people one by one. More people to the same team that already started doing development. Then we can take the person and do kind of like a knowledge sharing. I'll tell about it in the next slide. And then once this expanded, you can now work with people who tries to avoid LLM. Because you know the thing, instead of mandatory, you see that a lot of people around you who you trust, some of them your friends, and they say, okay, we started doing this. They say, for such and such code in our product, we don't want to use LLM. And they say, okay, but here and here you can use it, and here is how to use it. So it's kind of like a viral explosion. And that thing actually works. The other thing that it's working great, but I don't think many companies can do, is that several companies, they put the whole development process in company on hold. So they say, okay, we have 10% of people who are hardcore LLM users, and you have a 1 week to do anything you want. You can just talk with them, let them show how they do it. You can try to do your own pet projects yourself. Obviously, rare cases when company will do it, but it works really great because people are not forced, and they are not under pressure. Another big problem for AI adoption is that it requires a huge amount of like a brain power to learn new tools. And if you work, you have a huge pressure to deliver more and more features from the backlog. And you need to learn additionally, so it's super hard. If you give sabbatical for 1 week, people started doing what they wanted to do. Obviously not everyone, but the knowledge sharing is amazing. What I also tried to do is a kind of like a first version, different version of this expansion model. So instead of doing this directly in company, I'm trying to get my friends who are already doing like a hardcore LLM coding. And I did a chat, a Slack channel, and people there share what they do. And then other people who are interested, one by one, they join the channel. Yesterday there was a guy who was asking how to ask Claude chat on implementing BGP networking. So he had some server, he needed to do some BGP configuration and networking on his Ubuntu server in some data center. And we said, if it's not production, you can get Claude Code, you can say, you have access to SSH through CLI, and then you can chat to do what you want to do. And I said like 99 of 100% is that it will do a job for you. For 30 minutes, he was like, no, it's to learn something new. Then the guy, a couple of hours ago, he said that he's now like a coding all the time using the Claude Code. And this guy is pretty good developer also. So it's not about like, again, not about the vibe coding. So what we do is that we have this sandbox of people who are AI coders in Slack channel. The more people coming, it's sharing and sharing and sharing, and other people know other people, and it's more trust to join and see it. Other things that will help a lot. So there are now many things that can prepare the development in AI coding tools easier. You can guardrail the LLM according to your code writing standards. You can provide information about, let's say, use UV for Python always, instead of using a global Python. You can do a more and more strict guardrails, so it won't try to do different things. It will try to align with code style guides. It will try to align with flow of how the code is developed. And that means that if you created this thing and then you need to onboard another person who wasn't working with AI code before, they won't need to learn this kind of like a prompt engineering to write proper prompts that won't be reliable. You can do Claude Code cursor roles. One great thing about the context being bigger right now, like 100K, it's very good reliable. You can feed the documentation. You can prepare the documentation and then you can feed the documentation. Crazy thing I was doing. So I needed to develop kind of like a kernel level eBPF agent, and I wanted to Claude Code to do it in like a best guidelines, and best guidelines were provided in a book by Cilium, and they provide this PDF for free. So I took the PDF, I converted it to MD files, and then I said, Claude, you can, I did a table of contents as a separate file, and then I said, Claude, review my code, and then find like guidelines and good practices for the areas of the code that you will see in the book. So it takes book, and then it tries to implement this recommendations from the book, like from a paper book, PDF converted to MD file. Set of skills, as I said, like a superpower skills, MCP, there is a great MCP called Context 7, that's the only MCP that I use. You can say that instead of, one very crazy thing about agentic development right now is that first they were trying to learn to teach LLMs more and more, but now the half of development process is that you try to cut its own knowledge. There is a tool called Context 7. It's a huge amount of documentation for a lot of packages. So instead of saying, create me a chart.js area chart, just saying this. You can say, look for the API specification in Context 7 MCP. So it reaches the MCP server, the Context 7 side, downloads MD files, and instead of like hallucinating again with its own knowledge, it can use this as a guidelines. So once you have all this, then you can take a person, library of previous session history. There are multiple people who do AI coding good already, and they know how to do it. They have tricks that they do using they do in the chat. So what you can do, you can get the session history of such people and do kind of like a Twitch streaming, right? You can do how person develops, look at live stream, record, and you can also ask person to share the log of session and explain what this person was doing specifically in such and such case to teach other people on best practices.
Again, you must be very accurate about memory, because if you take the GitHub MCP or whatever,
Yes.
you will lose all the context of that. You must be very accurate and specific.
With the only MCP tool that I use is Context 7. For everything else, I actually provide to Claude the API documentation, and I just ask Claude to write the code that will do the thing. Problems. Again, as I said, it's like 30% of people who wouldn't want to switch because they love to code. The problem for 2026 will be what to do about such people, because it's not about don't having trust. It's about like their whole job is changing. The reason why they started to do their job is now like moving away. We understand that there are some places where code still should be done by hands only, but it's definitely not a huge part of this process. And what the industry will do with such people, it's obviously many of them are genius developers, but what to do, still we don't know. Another thing is that the pace of changes is so insane that it's like a crazy amount of brain power involved. Claude Code skills appeared last autumn. There wasn't such like a loop thing before. There were simple implementations by Anthropic itself before, but it was like a revolution. Claude Code appeared in the beginning of 2025. Before there was only a cursor. Opus 4.5, which is now default model for Claude Code, is kind of like a 4 times better than the models that were 1.5 years ago. And if you want to do, like, if you want to scale the productivity, you just need to try new tools which are appearing every second month or more frequently. What we are trying to do is that we are trying to, in the Slack channel, we try to share, at least to share the, between different people try different tools. So then they provide the information, okay, this is working, this is not working, and that's how we try to learn. Obviously, another thing is just to wait. To wait to see if something is a hype, if something is not. But as we see right now, there are not too much time to wait because, again, Cursor in 2024, Claude Code 2025, what's going to be next, no one still knows. Another huge problem is that what I do, I don't code myself. I do this design documents. Well, I code, but I don't do hand coding. I do design documents, then I do a tasks breakdown, detailed tasks breakdown. I ask Claude to prepare additional documentation about architectural decisions and why they were done. And once everything is implemented and I do testing, I know that this is working, I do a PR and I send the PR to Andrei, who's our co-founder and CTO. But the thing is that because of code implementation, amount of PRs is insane again. And it's a huge overhead on code reviewers to look over more and more code, because we'll see that it's going to be like 2 times more feature implementation. 3 times more feature implementation. So it's going to be a huge overhead on those people. You can try code review, but again, fundamentally, it's a problem that needs to be resolved. And still, another thing, you remember when like Google appeared, a lot of people initially they didn't do this, like, you know, iPhone 10 best reviews query. They were trying to query Google in a human way, and this didn't work, so they learned over the time how to properly query Google. The thing is that it's still the same problem for people with LLMs. I think around 70%, not developers, but in general, like population, 70% of people, the very big problem for them, well, it's not like something bad, but it's like a human brain works, human lives themselves. They can't easily formulate what they need to do. They can't easily say you need to do some such and such things. Because of that, we have good managers. Not all people are managers, and asking someone LLM code to do something requires this management skill. You need to strictly explain what's needed to be done, and that's, even for developers, it's a pretty hard task. It's now resolved again by this superpowers, cloud skills superpowers. So you can, instead of doing trying to formulate the idea yourself, you can say, I want to do such and such things, use brainstorming with me. And Claude starts to do a cycle asking you specific questions on what you want to do, so you can generate at final moment, generate like a good prompt for the implementation, instead of trying to spend the brain power on formulating the task for the LLM. But again, still, it's a big problem that needs to be resolved, and that means that we're gonna need some education. And developers who before now were resistant to use AI coding, they will need to learn it right now. It's not simply, okay, now you try to use Cursor, now you try to use Claude Code. They don't have skills of prompt engineering in terms of talking with chat, as people had before with like a query in Google. And we need to understand that this time will, there is time that needed to be spent. And what I think there is a need in some kind of like education in prompt engineering. What I think going to be like challenges in the future in 2026. First, we can expect end-to-end feature development, and it's differently in a wrong position. So we can expect that multiple microservice applications are going to be completely developed by AI tools. It's going to be something that people will need. DevOps people will freak out, obviously, but mainly we'll need to find a way what to do about the code itself, how we can review it. Do we need to review? What we need to do? So I think there are going to be multiple applications that are going to be developed 100% by AI tools. One other thing that appearing right now is a parallel development adoption. It's that you can run Claude Code in so-called YOLO mode when you disable all the confirmation for any critical actions. You run it in VM sandbox, obviously, so it won't delete your data. And then you provide a task, defined task. Again, this TDD first, code review, and so on and so forth. And then, like, you can run the Claude with this YOLO mode, and it will start doing the development for hours until the task is done. And that means that if you have multiple tasks to do, you can do a second task, and you can do a third task in parallel. But this requires some kind of like, it's kind of like a ADHD problem, because you can't easily shift between different consoles. And this will require some learning as well. But what I do already on different projects, not on tasks on a single project, but on different projects, is already trying to do this. This is insane, because you can just do 3 tasks in parallel. It's crazy. And we all know that there is a problem about junior engineer, because people don't code. If people don't learn to code, they are not learning, and they are not getting the knowledge, they are not getting fundamental basis. And people, like, if you are going if you want to start working as a software developer, you obviously want to start working, and that means you want to get a salary. And if you want to get a salary now, people will be asking about experience with AI coding. not experience with on-hands coding in many cases. And that's a problem that needs to be resolved as well, because we need to try to understand how we will teach new developers to code, because they need to understand how to code, because they need to understand, if they don't understand how to code, they can't properly work with LLMs. You need to have experience. It's like a leverage. And if you don't have this experience, you don't know what to do. Thank you. I hope it didn't take a long time, and I hope it was useful. We have a community group in Meetup. If I'll send their slides. I'll send there. I want to create a Slack channel, so I'll be happy if you'll join, so where we can talk about this more and more. I want to create more meetups. If you know any meetup spaces here, it will be great. Because right now the company funded the meetup. It's like crazy thing, but I love to do crazy things. But for future meetings, if you know spaces and if you can reach me and tell, gonna be good. Now, thank you. If you have any questions, let me know. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. So you talked a lot about new code, but what about old code refactoring? How does this kind of tool apply? Do you have experience or any best practices? Not creating new code, just refactoring old code.
I review. So I do the review and I see where something is not good. So for the last thing I did was that we have, like, in the observability system, we have this like multiple charts, and I saw that the code is duplicated in multiple places. So it works good if you ask to do a code review, but it's work much better if you ask specifically where to refactor the code. So you say you have this and these places, and I want you to do it in a different way, and then it does it good.
I have a question about when you're starting to implement in a company agentic coding. How does I try to tackle it in a few ways, like index graph or whatever. Or even I try to build a rack just for the model to add and to understand the context of the repo.
Mm-hmm.
How do you tackle this because when I implement AI in companies, I start with one team or one hero, and then we grow up.
Yes,
Again, I see the duplications which are in the old coding as well. I work here in the Poalim Bank. There are like millions of lines of code which are duplicated.
Mm-hmm.
The same imports, the same loading, the same whatever. How do you tackle it? How can we actually make the agent, or doesn't really matter, the LLM, understand the scope of the entire repo? Just one repo, not the entire company.
That's why I believe Cloud Code was a revolution. The way they implemented working with the code base in tools, not in LLM, and not in reg. That's something crazy. What I want to spend time on is to understand how this is working. But somehow they managed to pick right code locations. Or you were asking about something before?
No, it's not the issue. The Cloud Code, the first thing I loved about them, it's in the command line. This is the place developers are. But again, even with the Cloud Code, I have one markdown for the sprint, one markdown for the planning, one markdown for achieving tasks. But again, it does not have the context of the entire repo. This is what I'm asking. Do you have a solution to get the Cloud Code or whatever to understand the scope of the repo, not to duplicate or to understand the
I see. No, I don't have an answer for this.
Neither.
We can talk in Slack.
I'm investigating.
Okay.
Will eventually happen.
I was thinking, what if we think about English as a programming language, and then it's just a high-level programming language?
There was also already some people, but if I got your question right, so they already did a new programming language. So they took the Cloud Code and they asked Cloud Code to develop a new programming language, to develop tests, to make sure that the interpreter, the compiler are good. And they asked it to do it like, imagine someone invented this programming language under, and they took LSD, something like that. So it's like a crazy programming language, but they already doing this. It's insane.
So where I'm going is that, like, perhaps it's a natural evolution of programming languages where we had earlier, like, lower level languages that are more fit to the bits of the computer and the lower level architecture, and then we got to high level programming languages, assembly, C, all the way to Python,
Yeah.
which is almost English. You can almost read it sometimes, not exactly, you know, but, and then perhaps English is just a natural evolution.
Yeah, got it. I got it.
Still programming.
Yes, I agree. I hope this will work for those people who love to code. I hope this will.
Yeah, it was really nice when you said, like, what are we gonna do with these people? Because I think some companies are thinking, well, we're just not gonna hire. It was really nice that you were saying, let's get them on board. But it seems like there's an issue where if your entire team is using AI and you are not, you can't keep up with the pace. So like you have to use it because everyone else is using it.
I'm a company founder. I care about people, but even if I wouldn't, the thing is that you can't simply fire a person who was working for 5 years and doing a good job. And you can, even if you don't care about people, that's what I tried to do, explain other companies. Even if you don't care about people, if you fire someone who worked for 5 years and you have other people who worked for 5 years, they will think they will get fired as well. So for different reasons, but they see that you can fire a person even they had a good credibility.
Yeah, it's like mass hysteria you're causing.
Yeah.
So it was nice what you said, it's more of like grassroots where you starting gradually and incrementally and let people explain to each other instead of forcing it on them.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming. Nice to meet you all. And let's meet again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.